Now, I don't know if you're a superstitious type, but this particular episode of the podcast feels cursed to me. I can only describe it as career death by chocolate. I mean, the whole story will play out as you listen to the podcast, but for technical reasons, it's not the best quality recording, but it is absolutely top-notch content, as you might expect from a podcast episode entirely devoted to chocolate. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the best plant-based, droolsome, dessert, chocolate-rich indulgence you could possibly hope for. Let's meet our chefs. Fran Costigan developed and leads the 90-day Essential Vegan Desserts course at Ruby, the world's leading online culinary school. If you want to search for it, by the way, it's like Roaxby, just in case people were searching for like a gemstone, where she mentors international students of all skill levels, from beginners to professionals, in essential vegan dessert making, and they are essential. Thank you for recognizing that. Rob Bryce is here from Crave, who makes all kinds of amazing looking vegan confections. And I mean, chocolate aside, pickled onion flavor monster feet?
Yes, that's next on the menu. So yeah, and some streakers, which are smoky bacon rashers. So
okay.
We've got the chocolate out at the minute, and next the snacks.
That's brilliant.
Nice.
Not only are you masterminding all the favourite vegan snacks of yesteryear, you've also got a really good IP lawyer.
We all need one of those.
Yeah, we really do. And we also have Beth here from Vecreation, who has quite a story to tell about Biscoff Charlie and Chocolate Charlie, the caterpillar cakes. All of the brouhaha that erupted this year. Speaking of IP lawyers, you're right, Beth. Before the whole hashtag free Cuthbert
I live in fear.
you're going to be fine. We're all with you. We can win this. And also, you very kindly, Beth, sent me some chocolate to taste. Now, the thing is, okay, it's time for disclosure. So, okay, everyone's being very sweet. Everyone's being much sweeter than you could possibly imagine, because we recorded this podcast once already, and now we're doing it again because I didn't press record. As I discovered at the end of the recording, I was like, I'll just press the stop recording button. Why does the stop recording button say start recording? It was one of the worst moments of my professional career, and I've had some bad ones. The great thing is that you sent me two of your how IP lawyery do you want to get? Peanutty, caramelly, chocolatey. Okay, fine, Snickers bars. To try. And the great thing about vegans is that B12 deficiencies being what they are, I can't remember what this tastes like at all. So I'm going to taste the second one now and just have a look. Is that all right? Because I've been staring at this ever since the first recording, which was weeks ago. Yeah. It's been on my desk as a kind of penance thing for having messed up so badly. It's like, well, you could just stare at the treat and not have it.
You've done it.
So I'll just double check. We are recording. Okay.
Oh, that looks so good.
I'm young again. It's amazing. It is amazing. You nailed every part of this. The chocolate tastes so creamy. How do you get the chocolate that creamy?
So it's just a blend of dark chocolate and white chocolate, because I made it super easy so people could recreate it at home.
That's genius.
And a little secret ingredient. There's a little bit of peanut butter in there.
That's genius. You see, alchemy.
It pulls out the
peanuts are the right level of salty and roasted. Like the colour of them is right. The caramel is right. The nougat. Finally, I got to taste that again.
It's a Snickers.
I waited so long. It is exactly a Snickers. You guys should talk, you and Rob. Anyway.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah. You should. Yeah, because it is literally like you're recreating my childhood in veganized form. It's amazing.
That just sounds. You know what? I'm fully vaxxed. Can I come over? Will you give me one?
Come on over.
Across the pond?
I'll meet you at the airport. Beth, you should tell us the story of the caterpillar cake thing and what happened with you, because you went, to quote Dilly Keen, I mean, viral, fungal, definitely.
Yeah. So obviously he's a national treasure, isn't he? The caterpillar cake. And there
So
was
the
never a vegan
marketeers tell
version.
me, yeah.
I developed the chocolate version, and then I developed the Biscoff version. It was the Biscoff Charlie that went absolutely crazy. So he was in The Independent, he went on Lad Bible, Delish, Tyler. Like, he just went crazy. And what was great, it was that it was kind of non-vegans making him as well. That was amazing. And then the Judge Rinda caterpillar cake went viral a couple of weeks ago as well. So he's a popular boy, our Charlie.
Your whole life is basically just iterations of caterpillar cakes now.
Oh.
Brilliant. You should do the whole set. You know, it could be like your Smurfs. You just keep going. Don't stop.
I'd love to do that.
I mean, who wouldn't want to be immortalised in caterpillar cakes?
I'll do the Jake version as well.
You know, listen, don't, because I will absolutely, I will, okay, fine. You're going to need a lot of batter. Right. Why don't we get on with the actual questions for the podcast? You can email your questions about any aspect of plant-based food or cooking, whether you're just, tired of vegetables, understandable, or looking for fun new ways to drink margarine. You can always email podcast@veganlifemag.com, and we'll try and field your question to the best people to answer it. So let's jump in with all the chocolate fun. Charlie says, hey, Jake and panel, I'm not vegan myself. However, I'm trying one step at a time. That's all you got to do, Charlie. And this podcast has given me so much help already. Oh, that's lovely. My question is, I love making Jamie Oliver's ultimate hot chocolate, which has so many ingredients in, such as spices, chilies, and double cream. Yes, it's indulgent. I obviously don't have this every week. Why not? But I would love to dabble in making a vegan version. Could you give me the most obnoxious vegan hot chocolate, please? And Rob, because this is your first time, why don't you answer this one first?
Well, I suppose I'm going to push my own brand, but with the Crave bars, what we've done before is literally just some oat milk and taken the chocolate and just melted it down. So our bars have got toppings on them. So the Rocky Road's got marshmallows. So you get like these little gooey bits of marshmallow coming through, and you can go extra mad and just chuck some big marshmallows in on top. There's loads of really good vegan mallows you can get in the supermarkets now. So just take a really good Crave Rocky Road bar and melt it down with some oat milk, and then just go mad with some toppings. It's wickedly thick, it's rich, it's a bit of a sugar rush. Like, don't have it too close to bed because you'll be awake for a little while. But yeah, that's what I like to do.
That sounds filthy and wonderful. Fran, what about you?
Well, since I can't so far get those bars, I like to take a really rich milk. I'm really loving oat milk, I have to say, but maybe oat milk and some cashew milk to make it even creamier. And then there's two ways to go. You can infuse that milk with some chili spice and cinnamon to give it a kick, or any spices that you like, ginger. I'm not a spicy food person, but I like my hot chocolate with some ancho chili powder and cinnamon. And then...
Would you go cardamom?
No, I wouldn't. Not in that mix, but I would with ginger, maybe. And then you can use, some Dutch process cocoa powder. I don't know if you call it Dutch process over there, alkalized cocoa powder. Or if you want to make it really super rich, melt some chocolate, like, the kind of hot chocolate that I remember having at Angelina's in Paris.
Just
you hear what?
I hear Crave bars are very good.
I heard that
Did
too,
you hear that?
I'm going to get those. I'm going to find a way.
Same.
Yeah.
Good to know we were paying attention. Beth, how, frankly, how out there do you go with your spices and your hot chocolate?
I really like nuts with my chocolate. So I would definitely do a nutty base, like a hazelnut, like a praline base, or peanut butter. And then definitely melt chocolate. Always have some melted chocolate in hot chocolate, whipped cream, and then maybe more roasted nuts all over the cream.
And actually some chili in with the peanuts would go quite nicely, actually. We talk about making
that
would go. In terms of mouth.
That's interesting.
Creamier. I think chili with some peanut in there and a little bit of chocolate. Nothing too mad, but a little bit of heat at the back would be quite nice, I think.
Yeah.
And then the whipped cream on top. Yes.
And a tiny bit salty maybe as well, just to add that little extra.
Salty really does add so much. It really does. Yeah.
I have to say, if you want like a thick chocolate, I talked the first time we recorded this podcast, I talked about the importance of like cooking the cocoa, almost like making a roux with the cocoa
Absolutely.
and a little bit of water or
Yes.
plant-based milk before you start to kind of dilute it to its consistency.
Always start with a roux, definitely.
Yeah.
Right.
But I also, I did that the other day and it didn't quite happen the way I wanted it to. And frankly, I put in a little bit of corn flour. Mixed it up with a little bit of water and I put it, and you know what? You just end up with a really thick drink, which you want sometimes.
Well, that's called blooming the cocoa so that the flavor of the chocolate comes out, if you want to get technical about it. But I did a low fat, it sounds crazy, but I want everybody to have chocolate. So some people were in touch with me about wanting a very rich tasting hot cocoa, hot chocolate, but they wanted to cut back on the fat. And so I did what you did, but I used cornstarch. I think that's corn flour. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it adds that thickness. It does.
I've realised the last few months I've been losing some weight, and I've realised just how much cornstarch is your friend. You get a lot of bang for your buck with cornstarch. It's great. But I learned about the blooming the cocoa thing at the Museum of Chocolate in Biarritz. I don't know if it's still running, but it was an amazing place where a guy seemingly had quite joylessly devoted his life to creating sculptures made of chocolate. And so there was like a history of chocolate and stuff, but also there were all these sort of works of art. He tried to do like Rodin's The Thinker in chocolate, but it looked like he'd really... I mean, I know he'd worked hard on it, but it looked terrible.
Right.
It looked like he just like masticated mouthfuls and just kind of gobbed them onto each other. It was so bad. And under each exhibit, he'd write down like 52 hours of work. Oh. Like he just wanted, like, well, at least mark me on effort. You know what I mean? It was...
Was
it interpretive, maybe?
Very, very loosely interpretive. Yeah, it was not... Yeah, I would. Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, it's worth going and you get some free chocolate at the end. So or you could just go to the supermarket and cut out the middleman. Anyway, that's great stuff. Thank you very much, Charlie. Go and enjoy that. Vicky says, "I love to cook weird things at home." Oh, Vicky, and try unusual foods that you wouldn't normally put together. Just sort of seeing Vicky's face looking at me expectantly over the dinner table. What is it? What's an unusual but yummy pairing for chocolate? Fran, let's start with you.
I can't think of anything that doesn't go with chocolate. I've done caramelized onion chocolate. Don't give me those looks. It works. Truffles. And it's really pretty brilliant. I mean, it really works. Think about it. Caramelized onions get all nice and sweet, and there's a chocolatier in a little bit up New York called L'Augusta, who's quite famous for unusual flavors. And I got her cookbook. She's somebody, we go way back, and sure enough, she's got caramelized onion truffles. So I would say give that a try. Why not? And I've made puddings. I mean, I've made puddings with Japanese sweet potatoes. They're the purple outside and white inside. That's a potato that I didn't know about until a year or two ago when a friend brought me some. And they're very creamy, and I understand in the country in which they are native, and I don't remember what that is, that it's an Asian country, that they are frozen, and because they get really creamy, you can eat it like a popsicle. So one day I had some extra, and I dipped it in magic shell, chocolate magic shell, the thing that gets hard on ice cream. It was really good. It was really good.
Do you know, I could eat a baked potato with a few squares of chocolate thumbed into the middle of it.
I mean,
what
doesn't chocolate enhance, really?
Because there are pasta dishes, right? I mean, I made a chocolate sauce and had that on pasta once, and it was good.
Yeah, mole. That's not really chocolate enough for me, but it's got the undertones, and and I'll sprinkle cacao nibs on things, on everything when they're bitter, but I like crunchy and bitter too.
Yeah.
To balance all the sweet, I think, and it gives you that little bit of chocolate. So chocolate goes in my kale shake, guys.
I am. Yeah. I mean, why bother with the kale? Beth, what about you?
So I tried something the other day, and again, keep an open mind, but it was actually so good. So it was Marmite with chocolate. It was really good. So it was milk chocolate. So it was 35 white, 35 dark, and then half a teaspoon of Marmite. And it was good.
This is so exciting. My brain is on fire trying to imagine that together. That would be a fresh take on a Snickers bar, I got to say.
Yeah.
But wow.
Rob's like...
I'm thinking Marmite, umami. What can't you do?
Yeah.
Try it.
Well, there you go. That could be your next chocolate bar flavour, Rob. What things have you tried with chocolates?
So recently, actually, we were messing around. So vegan bacon. So this that produced the vegan bacon. I know the guys there. They sent us some bacon across. We had a lot of melted chocolate sitting around in the kitchen because we were doing some things. And I googled at the time bacon and chocolate, and it came up in America chocolate bark. And so that's exactly what I did. I took the bacon, covered it in Crave chocolate, and let it set in the fridge. It was actually really nice. I sent some to the guys as well for them to taste, because you've got like this smoky, savoury, contrasting with the chocolate as well, which put a few marshmallows on top and a little bit of chopped nuts. It was quite good.
Yeah.
I've been a real weird. You're eating it going, this is weird at first, and then it's like, this is nice weird. This is really good.
That sounds good. Well, smoky, salty, it all. I haven't had Marmite probably in a long. I don't remember the taste. I remember thinking this is strong, but chocolate and some miso.
Yeah.
Just to get all those flavors together is so good. I like smoky flavors. Smoky, fatty, salty.
Rob, you could do like a whole breakfast bar set, like the bacon breakfast, the Marmite breakfast, the toast bar, the muesli bar.
Get a little bit of burnt toast going on.
Exactly.
I would walk up to a chocolate fountain with a hash brown in my pocket. I totally would do that. That's an awesome idea.
Why not?
Okay, Vicky, I think basically what we're saying is everything in your pantry should be paired with chocolate. And let us know what happens. We'd love to hear. So do email us back and tell us what you try. Mandy says, I just finished watching an old episode of MasterChef. Don't get any tougher than this. Greg Wallace, how you doing? And they tempered chocolate on the show. I would love to try this at home. Can you give me a how-to, please, or shall I leave this to the professionals? I've got to say, I've watched a lot of Claire Saffitz's videos on the Bon Appetit channel on YouTube, and she is not a fan of tempering chocolates. Fran, why don't you talk about the chocolate tempering?
All right. Well, be prepared to be messy. I'm sure we're all in agreement. So you just have to be really precise. When chocolate is tempered or getting really close, you feel it. You feel the thickness change, right? But I can't do it without a cheat sheet because I can't keep this in my mind. So I do what's called a seed tempering method instead of throwing it out on a marble board and working it. So approximately 70 to 75% chocolate, finely chopped, nice chocolate, is melted over a water bath or a bain-marie. I just take a saucepan with a little bit of water and stick a heat-proof bulb.
If it's that messy, just an actual bath.
And then I have an infrared thermometer that I just keep poking, but you have to stir because that's going to take the temperature just of the top. So when the chocolate is melted to about a quarter of the center, isn't melted yet, then I stir, then I take the temperature, then I put the rest of the chocolate, the 25 or 30% seeds in, and that drops the temperature. So the first is 114 to 118 Fahrenheit or 46 to 48 centigrade. One thing about Ruby is we have students all over the world, so I had to learn your centigrade. But my thermometer goes back and forth just by poking. And then I bring it down to 88 to 89 Fahrenheit, 29 to 30 centigrade. And then you have to do a test to make sure your chocolate's in temper. So I smear a little on a little bit of Silpat. I find that works the fastest. And then you need to keep the working temperature around 90 Fahrenheit, 32 centigrade, or it goes out of temper. So a bar that you buy or the chocolate that you purchase is already in temper, but once you start melting it, it's out. When I don't feel like tempering, what I do is I'll dip something or make truffles and keep them in my fridge or freezer, and that's a cheat. And when that doesn't work or the tempering fails and I don't want to start all over again, I dust with cocoa powder.
Sure. And serve.
That's a good cheat.
Yeah.
It's a good cheat. With salt in it. I put a little salt in the cocoa.
Sure. And Marmite. Why not?
Why not?
Beth, is that what you do, the seeding technique?
Absolutely. Definitely if you're starting out, I think the seeding technique is great. I had to really simplify the instructions for tempering on my recipes because obviously you've got, home bakers that some haven't even baked before. So a really good...
This has a beautiful finish, this Snickers bar, which I should just check one last time.
See, I made effort on that for you, Jake. I made a mess of my kitchen and tempered it for you.
Perfect.
So keep the chocolate melted really, really low. Don't let it get hot. And then only melt 75% of your chocolate and keep the 25% aside, like Fran said. Take it off the heat and stir in the 25, and that should get you to a temper. That's the way to start out. And then as you get more experience, you'll definitely feel you want it thick, but still stirrable. And a really good cheat is to chill whatever product you're doing beforehand as well, because that will give it that extra little bit of security.
That's a great idea.
So I should freeze the cauliflower florets before I dip them in.
Exactly.
Just having some more ideas for you, Vicky. Rob, I'm guessing you have to do this on an industrial scale. Is it any different?
Well, our factories do, yeah. So it's all about temperature, and that's the key. But I suppose when you're making it at home, it's temperature, being in the right zone, so not too high, not too low. But yeah, huge tempering tanks, and it's even more important with sort of our manufacturer, just because we're vegan and free from as well. So we have separate tanks. So, like you say, it's what you do just on a bigger scale, pipe work and stuff, and funneling it all through. And that's the key, because production can be over a number of hours, like a whole day's production. We can run for a couple of days. So it's just keeping it that optimal temperature for, like you would do at home, for the right time.
Well, I don't think any home should be without an infrared thermometer in these troubled times. You can point it at your forehead and then stick it straight in the chocolate. It's a top tip, Fran.
But, if your tempering didn't work and you really don't want to start again and you're not making bars or, if it's not critical, you can use that chocolate. There's nothing wrong with the chocolate.
Still going to taste good.
Yeah.
It makes a mess. I remember Fran and Beth, the last time we recorded this podcast, you were saying, there is no way of doing this without generating a lot of mess.
Absolutely. Even when you're precise, prepared, careful, it just gets everywhere.
Chocolate gets everywhere.
Yeah, all the nooks and crannies.
Amazing. Yeah, because I'm a pretty chaotic cook at the best of times. But, I don't think I should try tempering chocolate. I mean, that's
you'll make a real mess, Jake.
Well, I like to clean up as I go along. But, chocolate, you can't get water near it. So you have to be so super careful. And if you try to clean up some chocolate that's splattered with a dry cloth, you're just making brown paint.
Do you ever boil all the things, if you've used a couple of ramekins or instruments, do you ever put them in just a saucepan of hot water and just boil it all off to clean it? Because otherwise...
That's exactly what I do. I mean, I have one of those kettles that you plug in, Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, a kettle that makes boiling water. That's one of the gifts I got. That's something that I saw when I was over, and I was like, that's really clever. And I keep it going when I'm working with chocolate because I have a divided sink, and in one sink, there goes everything that otherwise, there's it's the best way to get rid of the chocolate that I've finished licking.
Sure. That's the best. Thank you for saying that, because, I would have judged you if you didn't. I mean, I've moved quite a lot of my sort of culinary work to the bathroom. Right now, I've got a big kind of flagon thing full of ginger beer that I'm fermenting. I did a batch.
Oh, wow.
I did a batch of ginger beer, and it's really easy. You literally just grate up a load of ginger, put in about 2/3 of its weight in sugar, and just top it up with water. I put in some lemon juice, and you just leave it for a week, and then you kind of bottle it. But make sure you've got very strong bottles, because like 5-6 days later, they are really tight, and it's very fizzy. But the thing was, like, then another, I don't know, 5 days later, I still had some. I just, I'll have some ginger beer, and I drank it. And suddenly realised that I was drunk as a skunk. And it had actually become ginger beer. Like, it was properly bubbling. And so I immediately whipped up another batch. And to keep it sort of fermenting hard, it's in my airing cupboard in my bathroom right now. So I'm just saying, chocolate production, baths, maybe, I don't know. It's up to you.
It works.
Yeah, why
Yeah.
not?
So Mandy,
Yeah, I'll take it into the bathroom.
yeah, take it into the bathroom. Mandy, give it a go. Let us know how you get on, but do be prepared to immediately have to leave your house forever. Simon says, Delia Smith makes the best fudgy brownies, and it's so easily veganized. Can you change my mind and give me a better recipe? Thank you in advance. Well, that's the whole cakey versus fudgy brownies debate. Beth, are you cakey or are you fudgy? It's not a debate, okay.
If it's not fudgy, it's not a brownie.
Very good. Now define fudgy.
It's literally going to be borderline fudge. So chewy, firm, if you like a little bit gooey in the middle. Otherwise, it's just a sheet cake, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. A very, very sheet cake. Do you have a go-to recipe? You must have a go-to recipe.
Well, everyone thinks their own brownie recipe is the best, right?
Yes, exactly.
So-
Fran,
I
are you
swear.
fudgy or are you cakey? And we won't judge you. I mean, we will, but we'll do it really quietly.
Yeah, I agree with Beth 100%. If a brownie isn't fudgy, it's a cake. Nothing wrong with a cake, but don't call it a brownie. And my recipe, I think, is the best. But you're right, everybody has their own. But I was teaching that brownie years ago when we went into classrooms, and someone tasted the brownie and said, "Oh, this is bad." And I thought I was going to start to cry. And they were like, "No, bad is good. That's like hip hop. That was good. It was really good." But I like very fudgy. So I like chewy brownies. I don't like when they're just unbaked blobs, and people say, "Well, that's so," no, I don't care for that. But I like my brownies even without walnuts in them. I like brownies to be just chocolate.
Straight
So I have a recipe for a fudgy brownie, and also because I got so many requests for gluten-free. I'm not gluten-free, but I know there are a lot of people. So I have a gluten-free brownie as well that I'm told you absolutely can't tell the difference, and they're very fudgy as well.
That's good with the brownie, isn't it? In terms of the sort of gluten-free thing, because it's nice and dense. You don't have to worry about anything rising or anything like that. You just whack it in. For me, I like a bit of stodge. I like a bit of coffee in there, a little bit of espresso, a little bit of a hit going in. But yeah, delicious. Just I like them quite gooey.
I know what I'm making this afternoon.
Well, I feel like we're going to have to actually meet up and have a square off and see whose really is the
brownie
best.
Yeah.
A brownie off.
Yeah.
Well, because they stay fudgy, they go with everything. I do a baked Alaska because we can make meringue now, eggless with aquafaba. And I like using the brownie as the base instead of cake because it stays flexible and chewy and gooey and fudgy.
Oh, that's an amazing idea.
I mean, the pairing of chocolate brownie and vanilla ice cream is just sublime. Like, it's if I had to pick one dessert.
Do you remember Nigella did the bacon brownies? Because somebody did them recently with the this bacon as well, and put the this bacon pieces in the brownies.
Well, we can do that.
Rob, do you have a brownie? You don't. Crave doesn't have a line of brownies yet, does it?
No, not at the minute. We actually did, when we were first trying some of our bars out, we did experiment with some brownie pieces and almost like a slab of chocolate with a massive great brownie in the middle of it. But it is just a little bit too much. But yeah, why not? There's some bits coming down the line in terms of bars and stuff, but I think some brownie on top of a on top of a chocolate bar? What's not to like?
Absolutely
What's
nothing.
not to like?
Absolutely nothing. Well, look, because my one is the best, here's my brownie recipe. The perfect chocolate brownie. My chocolate brownie. Okay, fine. You will need 225 grams of vegan margarine. I like to use Vitalite. 400 grams, I know, of dark brown sugar, a healthy glop of vanilla extract, and 4 times your egg substitute of choice. 225 grams of plain flour, 140 grams of cocoa, a pinch of salt, and a generous pinch of baking powder. And I would say at least 200 grams of nuts, but like you could even add 300 grams. I would recommend walnuts, pecans, or pistachios, but cashews are okay. Maybe even Brazil's hazelnuts or peanut. Look, it's your brownie, okay? Except it isn't. It's my brownie. Melt the marge in a large bowl in a microwave, or a saucepan if your kitchen and body are too lovely for microwaves and you don't mind about extra washing up. Add the sugar and baking powder, salt and vanilla, and stir it in. Add the flour and cocoa and stir together. It should have a very thick consistency, somewhere between batter and dough almost. Add the nuts if you're going for the nuts and stir in. Tip the whole thing into a well-greased standard brownie tin or a baking tray, like something like around 20 by 27 centimeters. Maybe reserve a smear or two around the bowl to lick furtively while it bakes. Bake at 180 Celsius for 20 minutes. Test with a toothpick or a knife. It should come out just about clean. Take them out of the oven and try desperately to wait until they've cooled and crystallized into a superb, crispy, chewy, fudgy triumph. Cut into squares that feel appropriate, I would say 4, and ideally serve with your favorite vanilla frozen ice cream fakery. And please, don't eat as many of them as I do. Okay, back to the podcast. Michelle says, loving the podcast, Jake. Oh, wow. I probably shouldn't have read that out. It sounds very self-congratulatory, but thank you. I'm from the States and love that you get both British and overseas guests on the show. Here we are. I miss bundt cake so much since I've moved to Europe, and sometimes I make my mum's bundt cake recipe when I'm feeling homesick. If you have any American guests on the podcast this week, I would love a good bundt cake recipe. No problem if not. Michelle, I think we can help you out. Bundt cake, that's not a particularly... Is there like a definitive American bundt cake, Fran?
No, a bundt cake is a cake that's got a center hole, as far as I know. And instead of, an Angel Food cake pan had that center core. So bundt cakes are designed. They're designed and they're beautiful. And there's this company, I like Nordic Ware, and I'm sure they're everywhere. And they make assuming that you have, the given is that you have a good cake recipe, of course. They make your cake look gorgeous. You hardly have to do anything. So I like to drizzle chocolate glaze in the, in the grooves, or any kind of glaze. I mean, chocolate ganache on my bundt is good. But I do have two good bundt cake recipes on francostigan.com that will work really, really well. The trick with a bundt is, because of all those nooks and crannies, and I've seen people, it bakes beautifully, it looks beautiful, you turn it over, cake does not want to come out of the pan, and that's pretty heartbreaking. So sometimes if you haven't greased it correctly, you take a dish towel, get it soaked in really hot water, wring it out, put it over the pan, and that can help, or stick it back in the oven for a few minutes. And if not, if you've just got pieces, make a trifle with it. And next time, remember to really oil your pan very well. The sprays with the powder, with the flour, work the best for these bundt cake pans.
That's good to know. Beth, have you ever had difficulty easing your bundt out?
I've never made a bundt cake, but I know that it would lend itself very well to a vegan cake, wouldn't it? Because it would force it up, and the center core, because the center core's missing, that's where you kind of often have problems with larger cakes, don't you? So
yeah,
it would work really well, I think. But I love them. I've got a bundt pan in the drawer. I might try it.
They're so beautiful. I've bought several now. But that's very important what Beth said, because oftentimes where you get in trouble with vegan cakes is assuming the good recipe is the center. So if I'm baking a cake that's larger than 9 inches, if I'm going into a 10-inch pan, I use a thing called a cake core That's you set it inside of the pan, you pour the batter, you put some batter into the core, and that ensures that the center will bake.
Ah, okay. That's a top tip.
You've got to grease it, or it's just going to be part of your cake.
And a good glaze on a bun is a good shout as well.
It's gorgeous. I've put chocolate truffles in the ridges sometimes of the bundt.
Lovely.
Rob, are you a fan of the bundt?
It's been a while since I cooked a bundt cake. It's probably like catering college or something like that. So I wouldn't. It's not. Doesn't frequent my. Doesn't frequent the sort of weekly diet. But I think they could, like you said, a good glaze on top, like a chocolate glaze, and the cakes can take like chocolate chips in them as well. So that's just in terms of keeping it moist and stuff. Whack in some chocolate chips, white chocolate chips, dark chocolate chips, whatever you like, because. They can take it. And like you said, they look great. Like turning them out, if you've done a really good job of it, with a really nice glaze on top, it's quite impressive.
They're a lovely showstopper, aren't they?
They really are. They really are.
I've got a bundt thing, but it's very big. It's silicon. It's a wobbly. I got a wobbly bundt, and I feel like if I turned it out, people would be horrified.
No, it has to be firm, Jake.
Oh, those silicone pans, I tried it because people were saying how great they were, but there's nothing for the cake to climb. It's too wiggly. I mean, for a little cupcake maybe, but not for a bundt.
Yeah.
Bunts are
Quite a lot of weight in that.
deep.
Michelle, there you go. There's nothing to fear. You're safe. You can have fun with your own bundt at home, and just go and have a good time. Look. This is all great, and chocolate is wonderful, and it may well rear its head in the next section, but it is time for us to ask the age-old question. What do you do? What do you do with tofu? Yes, what do you do with tofu? This is where we break away from the core subject of the podcast. It's really just, what do you, as a vegan, like to do with your tofu? Rob, let's start with you. What do you do with tofu?
Deep fry it.
Just deep fry it, yeah. And what do you sauce it? What do you do with it once you've deep fried? In a batter.
So sort of a bread batter. So as long as you got a nice spice mix, and then go for it. I'm all into sort of deep frying things at the minute. So
that's a slippery slope there, Rob, in a very literal sense.
I know. You can only see the top half. You can't see down below. But go for it. Get some spices in there. Toss it in some spices, some squares. And then in a nice bread batter, straight into a really hot deep fat fryer. And in terms of the crisp and the texture, amazing.
Fantastic. What are your go-to spices?
Smoked paprika. I'm not really into things that are massively spicy, but anything smoky, like some cumin seeds and smoked paprika in there. You can put some oregano in there as well to help it along just a little bit. But it's all about the sort of smokiness of me. A little bit of heat from some cayenne or something, but nothing to sort of blow your head off.
Drizzled with the chocolate ganache. Beth, what about you?
So I just leave it on the supermarket shelf. I hate tofu.
We have never had this happen before. Literally, every single guest that we've had on this podcast, apart from you, is like, I love tofu. Like people literally, it's like they're talking about their favourite child. They sort of look misty-eyed upwards in the sort of fond recollections of good times with tofu. You're the only person. You don't like tofu?
Hate it. I've just alienated myself from 90% of the vegan population, right?
That's amazing. What don't you like? What have you tried? How have you tried? I feel like
the crispy puffed one is nice.
Right. It's like saying I'm not a fan of carbohydrate.
There's got to be some tofu haters out there.
Listen, if you are, podcast@veganlifemag.com. I want to hear from you.
Stand with me.
I want to make you some tofu. I feel like I want to show you
I'm open-minded,
the joy of unbelievable. Never enjoyed tofu. Never used your bundt. I mean, you're not living, Beth. Come on. Fran.
Well, I'm definitely the opposite of Beth in this instance because I like tofu so much that when I take it out of the package, to season it or think of what I'm going to do, I eat it
Oh,
that way.
Yeah. In the car park.
I just really,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about nice tofu, but I like it. So what's left from my not munching is I kind of rip it. I used to cut it into nice squares and slabs and things. Now I just find that I pull it off. The jaggedy edges are nice. I have a tofu press. I don't use it. So I'm marinated in some of the spices that Rob was talking about, or just, little shoyu and a little bit of sweet, a little bit of heat. And I often, because it's quick, I have a air fry lid that fits on my Instant Pot. It's called a melty lid, and I'll just put it in the basket and let it I like it crispy and then creamy on the inside. If I've got a whole bunch, I might bake it off in the oven. I like tofu scramble too, just really old school tofu scramble with lots of vegetables and things.
It's almost as if it was a perfect food that you just couldn't go wrong with, Beth.
You can't go wrong with it, Beth. Or in a sandwich, with mustard and sauerkraut and vegan cheese. Ooh, yum.
How would you do it for a sandwich?
I've had like a tofu scramble before.
Yeah, have you tried a tofu scramble?
Just bland.
Oh, you just need to pack it with flavour.
In black,
I can stretch to tofu-fish. I'll go there.
See, I'm not a huge fan of tofu. For me, there's not quite enough flavour going on. You need more flavour, more texture.
Yeah.
Beth, have you ever thought about freezing it? When you freeze it and defrost it and press it out, it's chewy. I mean, it doesn't have any flavor, but then, you make any flavor. There are days that I just want ketchup or mustard. So I'll smash it all with that.
Yeah, but it's like saying, I've tried plain flour. I don't like it.
I'll try again for you.
We'll get I'm gonna make something. You send me a Snickers bar. I'm gonna send you something made of tofu that you will find delicious. God, what have I done? Anyway, what do you do with tofu? We'd love to know. It's podcast@veganlifemag.com. Let's get back to your questions. Emma says, what is the best vegan chocolate to buy in the supermarkets to cook with? Rob, what could your answer be?
You can't answer that. That's going to be massively biased. There's no other way I'm going to say not a Crave a vegan chocolate. Because that's the only thing I cook with. That's all we have around here. So yeah, I think the difference, I don't know, I'm not into dark chocolate. So I like our chocolate in terms of like it's a rice milk based, it's an alternative. I like that sort of thing. It cooks really well. The only problem I have is it's got a load of toppings on it. But for me, that's not a problem.
I quite like that. I'm sort of down with the funky toppings and stuff. Like I quite like the Ben and Jerry's. They didn't mince they didn't bring out a vanilla vegan ice cream. They were like, no, you will have all the fixings and it will be fun.
Do it properly.
Yeah, I like that. Beth, Rob, you can just you can unplug for a second. Beth, what chocolate do you like to cook with?
I like to, with Bourneville, it hits about 34%, so it depends how dark you like it. So I guess you just have to try a few, but you have to be careful because the fat content changes. So the dark chocolates aren't interchangeable in recipes. So mine are always about 34%, but then if you use like a 70%, it's going to actually ruin the recipe. So be mindful of that. So just find which one you like. And if you want to bake with a milk chocolate and you find you need large volumes, try mixing a dark and your favorite white together because it's a lot cheaper. And then you can titrate it and make it super milky or a little bit darker.
I mean, I always wondered if that would work. And you're like, yes, it does.
It does, yeah. That's how I make all my milk chocolate.
That's awesome. And I can testify to how good it is.
Yeah, there we go.
Fran, what about you?
Well, I agree with what Beth said. Well, both of you said, because the chocolate has to taste good to you out of the package. And I used to think, all 70% chocolates would taste the same. They don't at all. Some taste really dark, some taste really sweet. So find a chocolate you like. If a recipe says use 72% chocolate, if you're making a ganache or a truffle, and you decide to use a 35 or a 90, your recipe is going to be in trouble.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't come back to me and say, that didn't work, because you didn't, it has to be the one that tastes good to you, but that. So I tend to use the higher percentage chocolates for things like glazes and ganache and truffles, as I said, and the lower percentage chocolates to make chocolate pudding and ice creams and so on. We don't have very good white chocolate in the States yet. We still have pretty waxy white chocolate chips, but I'm sure it's coming. More manufacturers are getting there. And then you can do a similar thing to what Beth's talking about with cocoa butter, using cocoa butter to make some white chocolate. Yeah.
But it is quite interesting because there's not a massive amount of vegan cooking choc out there at the minute. That's why, like you say, Fran and Beth, if there's a chocolate that you like, that's a really great starting point.
You've got to read labels because the chocolate, I used to think, well, any chocolate is fine to cook with if you like the taste, as long as it's not milk chocolate. But some of the manufacturers are putting milk powder into dark chocolates now, so that's a problem. But I can hardly keep up. I really can't keep up with the new chocolate makers, the bean to bar companies and so on. And some of the supermarket brands, the private labeled brands, are good too. But I have some favorites over here. And then you got to keep tasting. Someone's got to do it.
There you go, Emma. Just check the numbers. That's the secret. Lisa says, my husband's 50th is coming up, and I really want to make him some truffle chocolates and present them in a nice chocolate box like they were bought from a shop. Imagine. Could you give me some different flavour ideas? I'm going to try a Turkish Delight one. Do you have any tips? I like that. I mean, that's a very divisive one, isn't it, Turkish Delight? I'm all over that. But yeah, truffles. What's a good truffle flavour? Beth, let's start with you.
So I'd go really sentimental on this one. I'd think about, maybe what his favourite desserts were or his favourite cocktails and kind of mimic those in a truffle. Or if he didn't have some of those, then I would just go really nut-based again. So like a pistachio one, a hazelnut, a peanut, a macadamia, and do a whole kind of nut set.
That's a fun idea, those premium top-tier nuts that you rarely find in the selection boxes. Pistachios and macadamias.
Oh, and happy birthday to hubby.
Yes, you could put his favourite bacon products in there, according to you freaks.
Exactly.
Fran, what about you?
Breakfast food.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Porridge. Fran, what about you?
Oh, I like that romantic, sentimental idea. So do an assortment. I mean, he probably does have some flavors that he likes more than others, and then roll them in different toppings so that they look pretty. Toppings that he likes, and an assortment. And an assortment is like, hun, happy birthday. Here you go. Wrap it up with a nice ribbon.
Yeah. What kind of toppings are you thinking about?
Sweet idea.
What are pretty toppings for truffles?
I like everything for truffles, from leftover chocolate cake. There is a thing sometimes, believe it or not. Well, I'll pull a little piece off, let it get dry, and crumb the crumbs, like buzz the cake and then dry it out a little bit. So you've got a little bit crunchy chocolate on top of that you've rolled the truffle in, or sometimes I do it with bigger blobs of chocolate cake crumbs, and there's coconut, there's sesame seeds, there's all kinds of stuff. I don't do hemp seeds on my chocolate.
Absolutely not. Unacceptable, in fact.
Just chop up some chocolate chips or shaved chocolate. It's impossible to go wrong. I like freeze-dried fruits too, that I'll powder up, and glitter, throw some edible glitter on there, because that looks like $1 million. I like to rub everything with a little bit of gold luster dust, and it's like, wow.
Nice. Rob, you've experimented with flavours a lot.
I think I'm a bit crazy. Like popping candy. We've had popping candy, truffles before, something a bit different, like salted pretzels. Oh, yeah. They're gooey,
pretzels.
So you've got texture and stuff. To bash up some salted pretzels, like roll them in a bit of pretzel, like Beth said. alcohol goes well with pretty much anything, but definitely with a truffle. So I think, yeah, go a little bit out there and try something different. Honeycomb, again, that texture. If you can get some honeycomb, and like you say, on the outside, they look great in terms of like decorating with things like that. Honeycomb or popping candy.
Yeah.
Pretzels.
My advice, Lisa, yeah, pretzels is a good call. Lisa, I would say just make sure you make 3 of each, because that's like one for him, one for you to have with him, and one for you to eat as you're making them, because let's be honest. I'm assuming you go with that ratio, Beth, when you're making your chocolate bars, right? I mean, surely.
Do you know what? We bought the Hotel Chocolat selection box, and there's only one raspberry truffle in there. And I saved it, and my mum, when I wasn't looking, went and swiped the only one.
What?
Yeah. Why would you put one truffle in there?
Unbelievable. Gemma, this is the final question. It says, poor Gemma, I made the worst Yule log at Christmas.
Oh, no.
The ganache was grainy. My Swiss roll was more of a Swiss fold. I would love some tips to try again next year, because weirdly, it still tasted delicious. We have to come to you, Beth. Like, you are the queen of the caterpillar cake, which is like basically it's the same principle, right?
It is. I do have a Yule log recipe, and it was really popular last year, and it solves the issue of a Swiss roll and of a grainy ganache. So yeah, that's the best advice I can give, is follow my recipe. And you can always give me a message if you need some help.
That's very nice of you. That's vcreation.co.uk. Well, look, there you go. I mean, do you have any tips for Yule logging, Fran? Are they big in the States?
Well, actually, for people who are just find it very difficult, this was pre before I met Beth, to do a rolled cake, because it was kind of a holy grail. I have a Yule log in my cookbook, and I think online as well. Or again, you can DM me on Instagram or on just find me, you'll find me. So what I did is I baked a chocolate sheet, a thin sheet, and then I cut it and shaped it that way. The one strip is this wide, and the next strip's a little less, and it makes this really nice Yule looking log. And I take a piece and stick it on the end to be the log thing. I had so much fun with that. And then ganache, reheat it gently, sometimes adding a little bit more plant milk will ungreeny it. So I do a thick chocolate ganache and just pull it to look like the bark. And I used to do marzipan mushrooms, but that's before I knew about aquafaba mushrooms.
Of course, yeah.
The meringue cookies. I actually love the taste of the marzipan. And then cocoa powder to look like dirt. I mean, I just think it's the most fun project. I really do.
Rob, have you ever attempted a Yule log?
No, I'm not a big Yule log fan, so I think if I'm going to make one, I'm going to have to check out Beth's recipe as well. We'll all be versions of Beth's Yule log.
I don't think we can be pointing any tofu fingers if you're going to be saying you don't like Yule logs.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't want to end this on
controversial statement.
Yeah, I don't want to end on bombshells. That's not for this show. But wow, you guys.
Yeah, Beth, you're not doing any chocolate tofu cream, I gather.
Oh, hell no.
Probably not. No, not so much. Thank you all so much for taking part in the podcast, and a special thanks to Fran and Beth for doing it twice. It was I was great the first time. Where can people go to find you, your products, and your recipes? Rob, let's start with you.
So Holland & Barrett, we're stocked online. So go and find the kitchen sink, Rocky Road bars, and then shortly you'll be able to grab the snacks as well.
And Fran, where can people go to find you?
You can find me at francostigan.com, on Instagram. I'm Good Cakes Fran. Pinterest, everywhere except for Facebook. I'm Good Cakes Fran. I get these all. Facebook, it's Vegan Pastry Chef Fran Costigan and Fran at Ruby. So Ruby, Rouxbe, which you said correctly, actually started out as, when you make a roux.
Yeah.
And you bee. So Ruby.com has lots of recipes, and you can look at the syllabus for the Essential Vegan Desserts course. I love that there are students from all over the world. It's really broadened my horizons. It's just been wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And DM me, email me. I'd be happy to continue the conversation or answer any questions. This was really fun.
That's so lovely of you. Thank you very much. And Beth, where can people learn how to make one of these? Because they are so good. I'm not even kidding.
I actually speak Snickers fluently, so you'll find me at Vecreation recipes.
Right? No?
Oh my God, I'm so jealous.
Oh, you've no idea. Honestly, I'm not exaggerating.
Oh.
Sorry, Beth, where?
Vecreation recipes on Instagram and Facebook, and my website is vecreation.co.uk, and yeah, my inbox is always open.
And there we really must leave it. I do apologise for the sound quality of some of this podcast. It has truly been an accursed episode, although simultaneously a singular delight. My thanks to all of our contributors. Don't forget, Vegan Life magazine is available in all good shops, also online at veganlifemag.com, where you can subscribe and save a little bit of money, or you can download the app. We will be back with another episode in a week's time. Do join us then. Do like, subscribe, and share this podcast. We do need it to grow. That way we can keep bringing it to you. In the meantime, from me, Jake Yap, thanks so much, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
This has been a Swanburst Media production.